Hey folks, Jasmine Murphy here. You can call me Sunny, and today I'm sharing a few content writing tips that I've picked up over the years as a content writer, specifically a science communicator and reporter, and just as a quality assurance writer as well, looking at other writers' mistakes and seeing a lot of the pitfalls that a lot of beginning writers, maybe even intermediate writers, fall into as they're creating blogs and web pages and all that stuff. So anybody can use these tips, whether you want to write your own blogs and your own copy for your website as an entrepreneur, or if you want to hire a content writer and you just want to hold them to these standards. Again, like I said, this is based on my years of experience and my personal process. So if you have any other tips, then feel free to go ahead and share them. And if you have any questions, go ahead and email me with those questions and let's see how we can help your content. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. So number one, you want to give your readers fact-based content by going straight to the authoritative sources. One of the common pitfalls that I see new writers and maybe, overworked entrepreneurs falling into is this, this game of telephone, right, through the internet. So, you see one maybe industry leader, and one leader in your industry writing something about, let's say, cannabis. Let's just say it's the cannabis industry. And you see that one of your competitors, who happens to be a leader in your niche, writing something about how cannabis interacts with the body. Now, you can, when you're writing your blog, go ahead and use the information that they used in their piece, but that's not an authoritative source, even though they may have hyperlinked to an authoritative source. And typically authoritative sources when it comes to web content are things like .edu, .org, and .gov websites. The problem is that if you don't go straight to that authoritative source, if you don't go straight to the primary source, you risk feeding into that game of telephone and potentially miscommunicating a very important scientific fact. And so, that can be really risky for some industries and it can get you in a lot of trouble. And so it's always best to go straight to the research, straight to the studies, and a lot of times even talking to the scientists themselves through things like expert interviews. I see this happen way too often with clients, and it was happening earlier in my career too, when I would work with clients who they would have a specific vision for a blog post, a specific vision for, a social media post, and they would want to say a very specific thing, want to use a certain statement, something like that. But if that statement wasn't backed up by research, then I was always hesitant to do it, but the client would say something like, well, I see it on my competitor's page and this is what they said. And so what I would kind of do in those situations is I would go and look at what that competitor said, go ahead and, fact check it. And then if there's something in what that competitor said, then I can use it and kind of back up that fact with the actual resource. So in that sense, you're not using what your competitors are saying. You're looking at what they're saying, you're fact checking it, and you're making sure that you're giving your readers, that you're giving your audience authoritative, objective, peer-reviewed information. And that will really position you as a thought leader, as everybody wants to be nowadays. And that is what will help you build that audience that wants to hear from you and that audience that trusts you. If you are one of those entrepreneurs or writers who just takes things, at face value from your competitors and essentially spinning content, and just kind of regurgitating things, that's really not going to add any value to your content. It's just going to, it's not going to make it competitive because you're not, giving yourself an edge over your competitors. You're doing the same exact thing that they're doing, and you're using recycled content, so you're probably not even doing it as well as they're doing. It just makes it unoriginal and it makes it just nobody wants to read it. So just whenever you have the opportunity, please go straight to the authoritative resources. And now I understand that those studies, those scientific papers, those are hard to read. Those are really difficult to interpret. And so that's when you want to reach out to somebody like a science-based writer, science-based content writer like myself, a professional science communicator who can break down those concepts and put them into plain English. Because I've unfortunately seen that too, where a lot of entrepreneurs or a lot of new writers will try and translate a lot of scientific information, but it turns out that they're just kind of spreading their own misunderstandings, and it can be really disastrous for your reputation and your trustworthiness to do stuff like that. So please make sure you go straight to those authoritative resources. Now, number 2, I kind of already mentioned it, but you want to avoid spinning or linking to competitor content for science-based blogs. Now, this is a general rule of thumb for really any content. You don't want to be linking to your competitors. And I was told a long time ago in the beginning of my content writing career that by an editor that I used to work with, that when you post a blog wherein you link to your competitors, you're implicitly telling your reader that my competitor explained this better than I can, and that's why I'm using them as a resource for this. Does that make sense? So you don't want to give that kind of authority and that kind of information. Sorry for the noise, my dogs are running in the background. You don't want to give that kind of information or that kind of impression to your reader. You want, again, to go straight to that authoritative resource. That way your readers can know not only did they get this fact-based, objective, peer-reviewed information, but they are also at a point of understanding in their industry that they can interpret this information and they can relay it clearly to me, to where it isn't that information, that knowledge is now accessible to me and it is helping me in my life. You see how that kind of builds rapport and that helps to build trust? But on the other hand, spinning and kind of, like I said earlier, regurgitating things that your competitor may have written, it's just going to make you look unoriginal. It's going to make you look recycled. And it's just going to make you look black and white and cut and paste like everybody else. And that's never a good look for your brand, especially for a startup, especially for a new brand. So you want to, again, go straight to those resources and don't spin content. And the reason that I kind of reaffirm number 1 in this point is because it's a rampant issue. I see, again, or in my career, throughout my career, I've had too many clients ask to basically rewrite a competitor's blog. Like, I like the points that they made here. I want these points in my piece too. And that's not a problem. Because you definitely, that's actually how I approach some of my content planning, is, when I'm starting a new piece, I go and I look at the competitors' work and I see what questions they answered. Why are they they're at the top of the SERPs for a reason, right? So you want to go see the types of questions that they are answering. How are they answering it? Can you answer it better? Can you use better resources to answer these questions for your target audience? And so those are the only times that you do want to go and you want to kind of audit your competitors' content, but too many clients ask to basically have the same stuff that their competitors have because they think somehow it makes their website better. It just doesn't work like that. So, just avoid spinning when you can, especially when you are trying to be an educational, informative resource in your niche. It's just not a good look and it'll mess up customer trust. Now, number 3. This is a little bit abstract, I'll say, but it's still important. So when you're writing science-based content, you need to change your mindset. You're not just a content writer, you're not just an e-com business owner or entrepreneur. You, at this point, when you are relaying information that is based on scientific research, and a lot of times innovative, like cutting edge scientific research, especially in the cannabis industry. And it's happening a lot in the pet industry too. There are a lot of advancements being made there, pet health specifically and behavior. But anyway, when you're writing this science-based information, remember, you need to change your mindset because you're not just a content writer anymore. Now you are a part of science communication. You are now taking on the responsibility of relaying really high value information to your customers. And this goes for a variety of industries. Like I've already mentioned, you can be in the pet industry, and if you're relating information about how to take care of your pet, you are playing a very critical role in your audience's life and their challenges and their pain points. So this isn't, a place or a channel or practice through which you can just, give all this fluffy information and use all of this useless blog filler content. Every single thing you publish needs to be high value. It needs to address a question directly. It needs to, help your readers through their daily lives. Even if it's something, I write for Ferret World, and for them, I've written things like, why do ferrets turn yellow? Ferret housing guide. And these are basic pieces of knowledge that pet owners need to have. However, there are many scientific concepts that play into, that fundamental knowledge. So you see, how should ferret housing be set up? Well, you need to take into account that they need this much playtime during the day. They need to have enrichment activities such as foraging and chasing and hunting because of their instinctual behaviors. And, so it gets into a lot of the biology of the animal, the behavior of the animal, their physiological needs, their cognitive needs. And those are all scientific concepts. And I think people don't really realize just how extensively science plays into our lives all the time, every day. And so, with that, I just want to reemphasize, you are a part of playing a critical role in making scientific information more accessible, more appealing, and more engaging in modern times. And why is that so important? Well, sadly, in this day and age, because of how politically intertwined everything is, and because of how polarizing everything is, people don't really like scientists anymore. And obviously that's dependent on demographics. But a lot of, demographics in the West have really nurtured a growing kind of anti-science, anti-research sentiment because of all of the politics and stuff. And it's really sad. And it is also hindering the public's ability to really perceive when science plays a role in their daily lives. And so when you present these blogs to your target audience, you're, playing actually a really important part in revitalizing public interest and public interest in science and really strengthening public knowledge and our understanding of our world and how our world works. And even further, why that's important is because science has been used to hurt a lot of people. It has been politically wielded. It has been weaponized, in, military and all kinds of stuff. And so your role, whether directly or indirectly, is to remind people of the good. Remind people of the good of science and how it can help them. Remind them that it can help them take care of their pets, that it can help them, grow their gardens. It can help them to keep their houses clean, maintain their health. There's so much that you do and such a significant service that you fulfill when you produce science-based content. So just keep that in mind when you're writing your blogs and when you're hiring writers, that this is a really important job. It's not just, about building your brand, but it's also building trust and building up your target audience and really enriching and supporting their lives. And so that's why it's so important to go straight to the sources and really change your mindset when you're writing your web content. All right, I've talked enough on that, and I'm number 4. Number 4, kind of on that same vein, when you're writing science-based content, you want to help your readers relate it to their life. Now, how do they relate science-based facts to their real life? Kind of bridging that gap between research and day-to-day living. Now, there's a couple of different ways to do this. And again, it's very dependent on your industry. Let's go back to the example of being in the cannabis industry. How would you do this? Well, you can talk to your readers about, how long does THC or CBD stay in the body? Well, you can talk about different things such as, the substance's bioavailability. How does the body take up the cannabinoid? How does the body use the cannabinoid? How does the cannabinoid affect you over time? When does it reach its peak? When does it start tapering off? These are all scientific concepts, deeply rooted, obviously, in scientific research, but they are directly related to your reader's life because it lets them know, if they're preparing for a drug test or if they're just trying to maybe take a break from cannabis. You're giving them information that they can apply in very obvious, valuable ways. So that helps them to kind of bridge that gap between the actual research, something that, when it's in that scientific publication format, it may look like, oh, this isn't something that relates to me. That's academic stuff. But when it's in the form of your blog and written in an engaging, personal, understandable, consumable way, then your reader can be like, oh, now I understand why science matters here. I can understand more about how cannabis or whatever else you might be promoting or talking about, how this affects me. And now I've gone to this resource that has translated that information to me and I can apply it to my life. And again, just kind of circling back here, that really helps you to build rapport with your readers and build that trust because they know that they can trust you to not only find that really high value, important information, but also translate it in a way that is immediately applicable to their lives. And I feel like that's a huge part of what's driving this chasm, this difference, the separation between scientists and the public is that a lot of scientists are unable or unwilling to help people make those connections. People may not be people may not be able to make that connection themselves easily. And so sometimes they just need a little bit of guidance. And, it's not a thing of, dumbing it down or anything like that. It's just making it into plain English. Anybody can understand so many of these concepts that have been gatekept behind paywalls and scientific journals and all that kind of stuff, and all this jargon and all this stuff. But when you, as an online business owner or as a blogger, come and take that information and basically take it from this area that's being, exclusive and that's being gatekept and take it out of there and give it to your readers, then, there is just unprecedented potential for growth and connection. And that's really, really valuable. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. Science-based content, it sounds dry and it sounds like, hey, that may not relate to you, but it really doesn't have to be that way. And so that's really where a lot of that value comes in. So scientific research, it really is the foundation of your everyday life. And as an online business owner, you have the opportunity to show your readers that. So these have just been a few tips on producing science-based content based on my experience as a science communicator and reporter and content writer and quality assurance writer over the last couple of years. And I hope that these really help you, whether you hire a writer to write your own content or you want to do it yourself. So I just wish you the best of luck, and I will see you in another one of these with more content tips in the future. Bye.